Man carries his own hell on his back. Some sentences are not meant to be understood immediately. They do not strike all at once. They sink in first, then slowly find their place. What you have just heard is one of those sentences. If it unsettled you, that is a good sign. Because some sentences are not meant to comfort you. They are meant to wake you up. Now, I want you to ask yourself something, but do not answer right away. Is it the life you are actually living that hurts you, or is it the silent prison you have built for yourself inside that life? According to Dostoyevsky, man's greatest tragedy does not exist outside of him, but within. It hides in a dark inner room. Not in what happens to a person, but in what they do with what happens to them. People often blame fate, society, circumstances, or others. Yet the heaviest burden lies in the inner monologue they construct when no one is watching. In the sentences they repeat to themselves, but would never dare to confess out loud. And perhaps the most painful truth of all is this: even when a person realizes they built this hell themselves, they often cannot bring themselves to tear it down. There is a suppressed voice inside every one of us. A voice that refuses to be silenced at night, and that we try to drown out with noise during the day. Sometimes it reminds us of a mistake we made long ago. Sometimes it confronts us with someone we could never become. And again, it whispers the same sentence, "You could have been more." People stay busy to avoid hearing it. They hide behind work, relationships, goals, even suffering. Because sometimes pain feels easier than facing that voice directly. Dostoyevsky's characters are restless for a reason. They encounter conscience before evil, awareness before guilt, an inner reckoning long before punishment. The real sentence is not handed down in a courtroom. It begins in the human mind. Because human beings are the only creatures who can deceive themselves, yet cannot escape themselves. No matter how deeply they deny it, sooner or later, the door is knocked on in the middle of the night. And when it is opened, what stands there is not an enemy, but the self. Pause for a moment and think. What truly hurt you the most? Was it the event itself, or the conclusion you reached about who you are because of that event? I am not enough. I am unlovable. This is just how I am. This is where hell begins. Events pass. People leave. Time moves on. But these sentences remain. And once a person believes them, they become their own jailer. Dostoyevsky views human free will from a dark angle. In his world, freedom is not only the ability to choose, but also the ability to insist on being wrong. Sometimes, even when people have the power to let go of pain, they refuse to do so. Because pain is familiar. Because pain has slowly become part of their identity. Saying I am someone who suffers feels safer than stepping into uncertainty. And so, people remain in a prison whose door was never truly locked. Perhaps you recognize this in yourself. Perhaps you have been walking in the same mental circles for years. The same fears. The same defenses. The same inner conversations. Each time telling yourself, this is who I am. But Dostoyevsky's most unsettling question remains. What if you are not the person you believe yourself to be? What if the I you cling to is nothing more than a story you have grown used to over time? People endure pain more easily when they give it meaning. Yet sometimes meaning itself becomes more destructive than the pain. When suffering becomes part of one's identity, healing starts to feel like a loss. Letting go means abandoning the story that has held everything together for so long. And when that story ends, the question becomes frighteningly simple: who remains? In Dostoyevsky's world, hell is not made of fire. It is made of silence. Of unspoken words, postponed confrontations, and suppressed truths. People burn most intensely where they cannot be honest with themselves. Lying to others is often easy. Lying to oneself, however, demands payment every single day. In sleep, in relationships, in loneliness. Ask yourself this. What truth about yourself do you keep postponing? What emotion do you keep pushing aside by saying, now is not the time? What question do you fill your life with distractions to avoid answering? That place is the hottest point of hell. And no one is forcing you to stay there. The door is locked from the inside. According to Dostoyevsky, man is both the offender and the judge. He condemns himself, punishes himself, and then convinces himself that he deserves it. When happiness appears, guilt follows. When peace arrives, restlessness takes its place. Deep down, there is a belief, I don't deserve this. And so, even happiness becomes a threat. Perhaps this is why some people unconsciously sabotage what is going well. A relationship, an opportunity, a moment of calm. Just when things seem to settle, a voice whispers, this won't last. That voice claims to protect you, but in truth, it keeps you trapped. Dostoyevsky does not romanticize the darkness within human beings. He exposes it plainly and asks a single question, can you still choose to live? The task is not to eliminate darkness, but to face it. And this courage is rarely dramatic. It is quiet, almost invisible. People often retreat at this point because confrontation sounds noble in theory but feels painfully ordinary in practice. It does not reveal great secrets, but small escapes, minor lies, postponed decisions, feelings brushed aside with I'll deal with it later. This is where Dostoyevsky becomes truly disturbing. Hell is not built in one catastrophic moment. It is constructed slowly through daily life, brick by brick. Every silence, every act of self-betrayal, every time a person looks away. One day, they look back and cannot remember when this structure was built. They only know they are living inside it. That is why unhappiness is often so hard to explain. There is no single disaster, only a persistent inner weight. Dostoyevsky is interested in that weight, because the deepest pains do not scream. They whisper. People fill their lives with noise so they do not have to hear those whispers. Constant movement, constant urgency, constant pursuit. But no matter how fast they run, they carry themselves with them. Escape, in Dostoyevsky's world, is not salvation. It is delayed confrontation. What is pushed down returns with greater force. And that is why some people collapse when nothing seems to have happened. What collapses is not the moment, but the accumulation. Dostoyevsky does not condemn this helplessness. He simply shows it and says, look, this is where you are. And perhaps the hardest moment comes when there is nowhere left to run. When a person looks in the mirror and sees what they have long ignored. Their silence, their cowardice, their contradictions, but also their potential. And that combination is suffocating, because excuses fall away. In Dostoyevsky, one face of hell is suffering. The other is responsibility. As long as a person suffers, they feel innocent. But responsibility ends innocence. Perhaps that is why pain is so hard to release. Pain provides a role, a narrative. Sentences that begin with I am like this because offer temporary relief. Yet every because is also a chain. Facing darkness does not mean breaking chains immediately. It means seeing them. And even that is enough to shake a person. Some chains have been worn for so long that they feel like part of the body. Dostoyevsky does not promise transformation. He does not say everything will be fine. He only suggests this: if you keep looking, something will change. That path is often lonely. It does not begin with applause, but with a realization that arrives quietly in the middle of the night. A person does not suddenly become better. They become slightly more honest. And that honesty can be unbearable, because it means no longer pretending to be strong. Nothing dramatic happens when a person truly confronts themselves. The world keeps moving. There is no celebration. Only the inner noise begins to fade. And when that noise fades, emptiness appears. Emptiness is frightening, because it brings responsibility, the responsibility to rebuild. According to Dostoyevsky, the door out of hell is not somewhere outside. It is within. But to pass through it, One must first accept this sentence: I carry part of this pain. This is not blame. It is liberation. Because where responsibility begins, power also begins. If these words feel familiar, do not reject them too quickly. Do not defend yourself right away. Pause. Listen. Perhaps for the first time in a long while, you are hearing yourself clearly. And perhaps that discomfort is a sign. Because sometimes the path to the right place leads straight through discomfort. And if you stay with that discomfort just a moment longer, without naming it, without pushing it away, you may notice something quietly unsettling. The pain is not asking to be fought. It is asking to be understood. We spend years sharpening defenses, rehearsing explanations, building identity sturdy enough to survive scrutiny, yet fragile enough to excuse our silence. But clarity does not arrive through argument, it arrives through stillness. In that stillness, something old begins to loosen its grip. The stories you repeat about who you are, what you deserve, why things could never be different. This is where the real choice waits, unannounced and unglamorous. Not between success and failure, not between happiness and despair, but between familiarity and truth. Because the self you cling to may be familiar, but familiarity is not the same as safety. And growth rarely feels like progress while it is happening. It feels like loss. Like stepping into a room without a script. Like standing without armor. Yet on the other side of that unease is not perfection, not certainty, but something far more dangerous and far more alive: responsibility. The moment you realize the door has always been within reach, and that whether you open it or not has never been about fate, but about courage. Dostoyevsky whispers this to us: man cannot escape pain, but he does not have to lose himself within it. Hell is portable. And as long as it is carried on the back, every place looks the same. New cities, new people, new lives. Only the scenery changes. At the end, there is no answer. Only a question and its echo. If hell truly lives within you, will you choose to stay there, or will you find the courage to open the door?